I've got to use longer intros, my friends. Well, ladies and gentlemen, shalom. Damn it. This is your old pal, Rabbi Sol Solomon. What are you doing? What?
Adjust your shawl.
I'm adjusting my shawl, my tallis here. That's better. Oh, now I feel more rabbinical. Rabbi Sol Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. And how delighted I am and thrilled to be talking to a writer, an actor, a director as well. He is on the faculty at the University of Delaware. I don't even know where the hell Delaware is. It's somewhere in America. He founded or helped co-found the REP there, which is the theater company at there. But he's been at Milwaukee Repertory Theater, South Coast Rep. He was actually nominated for a Chicago Jeff Award, and he's teaming up with a director that he's worked with before, a major dude, Mark Lamos, who directed this man's play Starter Pistol in Oregon. But now there's another play. It's called Tiny House. It's a dark comedy, and they are doing it to open the 90th season of Westport Country Playhouse. He's coming to us from what looks like a country sort of a place. His name is MICHAEL GOTCH. We gotcha on the show. Welcome and shalom to you.
Hey, shalom. How are you?
I'm good. Well, me with my prostate, you don't want to know. But how are you? You're looking good. You're a handsome fella. How you doing?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, it's early, so I guess I'm happy that I look okay for this. I'm out at my parents' house, actually. I haven't seen them for a year and a half because of COVID. And I finally, after we were able to be, given the go-ahead to meet with people again in person, I came out. They live right outside of Chicago in kind of the Dunes National Lake Shore area of Lake Michigan.
Whoa.
So it's kind of a combination, it's 2 for 1. I get to be close to Chicago, but I'm also kind of in the country. So
yeah, I can see that behind that. I wasn't thinking Chicago at all when I saw that window behind.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, no, this is just their backyard. I thought it would be a good backdrop for this as opposed to, a white wall. So
well, how long are you staying there? Because are you going to see some Chicago theater such as there is?
Well, I don't know really what's out there. I have so many friends in the Chicago theater scene, and it's where I started before I went out to the East Coast. But, so many people are still in this kind of hybrid of remote versus live. And I don't know, because it's summer too, even in the best of times, there wouldn't be as much theater going on. So I don't know, my answer is too, that sometimes with theater, I'm a little bit like a guy who cooks French fries. You don't usually go out and eat French fries when you cook them all day. So I don't go see as much theater as I am in. But if I hear from any friends of mine that they're doing anything, I would definitely go check something out this summer.
Well, let me ask you also, you're there, for, as you said, for the summer. You're going to hang in Chicago or
a little bit,
yeah, ex-urban. What do they call it? Countryal Chicago.
Yes, exactly.
But normally you're in Delaware. Delaware is your home base.
Yes, and I teach at the University of Delaware, and but my primary position there is a part of the founding member of the REP company that is a professional resident company at the university that performs a slate of shows every season. Well,
last season you didn't. Did you just let it go?
I mean, we did we ended up, we were actually in the middle of a production of The Crucible when we got word that we were going to close down the world. So it was, it was like 6 shows worth. We got our opening night and we did about 5 shows. And then the next day they said, don't bother coming in. We're going to all, lock up our doors and wear masks for a year and a half. So
I bring witchcraft. I do. Yeah, exactly. That was witches. They made that happen. Yeah. Because that show is a true story. Just the actual, they were not innocent. All the girls, they were witches. I'm telling you. So, but now I assume you're planning for a brand new full season at the Rep.
Well, we are in a way. I think for the first half of the year, we're still going to be a remote theater because there is so much reticence about returning to live, at least in our patron base and our subscribers.
In Delaware? Are there more than 7 people in all of Delaware?
Exactly. Well, it's funny because where we're situated at the very apex of Delaware, right next to, we're at my house. Literally, I can walk outside my house and walk a mile in any direction and be in a different state.
Whoa. So, can you see Canada from your backyard?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Russia, more precisely.
Russia, I'm sorry, yes.
So
I
So
screwed up the joke.
you've got Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, and Maryland all in the same place.
Oh,
So
to wake up and see New Jersey. Oh, what a beautiful thing that is.
yeah, exactly.
No, that actually sounds pretty. I mean, you must live close to the university then.
Yeah, I'm right on the, well, not on campus. Luckily, I'm not in a dorm, but but where I live is right. It's also situated right next to a state park. So if you haven't noticed, I really like to be close to the natural world, and this play is no exception. But um, my
Well,
dog
I
and I.
love the way an actor and a director will sneak in. But I'm talking about something completely different. And my play,
Yeah, exactly.
which is called
Um,
Tiny House,
it is.
which is it's going to be virtual. What are the dates on that? When is that
I
running?
think it's June. It premieres June 29th and goes to July 18th. And it's a variety. I think there's a variety of entry points for an audience. I think the main one is the Westport Country Playhouse website, where you can purchase single tickets or whatever. And then I think it's also going to be available via Broadway on Demand, but you may want to check that. I don't know.
Well, certainly to find out the information, westportplayhouse.org is the
Yeah.
main, is at westportplayhouse.org to buy tickets to see online the play Tiny House,
Tiny House.
which
Yeah.
is, all right, you brought it up. Tell us, is the show about a minuscule domicile? What is it?
It is, and it came. Yes, it is. It's about a young, intrepid couple, the main characters of our story, who go into the wilderness of a sequoia forest in the, ostensibly, it's never named, but it's Northern California, Pacific Northwest, and decide to go off grid after many years of slogging it out in the big city. And for a variety of reasons, some personal, some familial, some economic, they decide to go off grid and build themselves a tiny footprint home that is our version of roughing it, I suppose. And hijinks ensue. There's a group of people who come over for a Fourth of July barbecue, and it's all set in on one day on the Fourth of July in this kind of idyllic paradise. And the conflicts between the characters and the family members that come to visit this newfangled way of living.
I mean, as you say, it's a comedy, a little bit of a dark comedy. I don't want to,
Yeah.
give it, but it is an amusing time that says something about the way we live and things like that. Have you been? Because I'm kind of curious. You are I don't know if you're cis or not, but you are a white male, right?
Yeah.
You don't look Jewish, but in most ways you look normal. So here's the deal: have you felt pressure being in a place like Delaware, which I imagine is not, what is pretty homogeneous? Do you feel pressure now to do more black plays, more plays about things out there and Latinx and have gender things?
Yeah. It gets a little hairy trying to wander through the new terminologies and things, but I think of it less as pressure and more of as an opportunity for us. And I do think that we have tried even before kind of it became something that was a justifiable focus for theaters and the arts, to expand and broaden and diversify. I think even before that, we were moving in that direction because our artistic director really understood that there was a lack of that programming, at least proportional to what you were saying. Kind of the white patriarchal, whatever word you want to use for it to describe it. So it's kind of a mix right now. But yes, we are broadening the base of material selection, and certainly our company is diverse and tries to incorporate as many guest actors and artists and designers as possible, as I know Mark does up at Westport. So, with this play, it wasn't written so much to be a specific gender or racial grouping. A lot of playwrights, I think, these days, at least the ones that I know and are friends with, and the plays that I see, are trying to make everything as, if you're not writing a play about something very, kind of issue based that requires a certain racial makeup of the cast or cultural makeup of the cast, that they're at least writing in a form that allows for the most expansive possibilities in casting. And so for as a writer, and I know you write as well, having looked at a bit about you, that you try to open it up so that
More about me, more about me. Yes.
That you try to open it up so that people don't have to read a play and say, well, we can only cast this kind of person in this role. That for me, the most important thing as a writer or as even an actor is finding commonality despite or irrespective of what the person saying it looks like or sounds like, that we can all relate to whatever the universal is that the character is speaking into the ether.
It's
So
because I had so much trouble when I first started writing plays of my own. Every character was Arnold Stang. And since Arnold Stang is long dead, that has been really difficult to cast.
right, or to find an audience that understands who that is, maybe.
But you know. Yeah, yeah. How do you know who Arnold Stang is?
I don't know.
Oh, you're a sneaky son of a bitch. I see that. Oh, I'm gonna have to be very careful with you. Yeah. But you're very diplomatic. I see this also, that as someone who is founding of a theater where you have to appeal to like 80-year-old people who've been subscribing for years up there in the rep to like your students who are now wanting to go see shows that represent them and their ideas. But let me tell you, how did you hook up, as it were, with Mark Lamos? This major dude. I know he directed that other play of yours, Starter Pistol. Was that your first connection or what?
Well, our first connection was actually on Tiny House. Tiny House is technically the first play that I've written, the full length. Starter Pistol was a second full length that he ended up directing most recently. Tiny House was a few years previous. This is a re-premiere, so to speak, in a new format of a play he's already directed. But the way we connected with and for me as a writer was first with me as an actor, and Mark and I met when he directed me in Hamlet.
I have an important bulletin that came through. This was the late great Arnold Stang, the voice of Honey Nut Cheerios Bee. Arnold Stang, there he is.
Excellent. I don't know that I could take a play with 5 of him in it, but maybe.
Oh, I could take a play. Oh.
A dash of that as a seasoning might be just enough for me. But
if I were directing The Color Purple, every character in The Color Purple would be him. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sorry, you were saying
it might have won an Academy Award in that case. How many was it nominated for and didn't win one thing? So
no, I was actually talking about the musical. But there you go. So. Anywho, I'm sorry to that, but yes, you were saying about Lamos.
Just Mark and I met when he directed me in Hamlet in 2012 at the Rep, and so our first foray together in the theater was.
All right, hold on. Actually, time out again. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Hamlet. So a zillion people have done Hamlet.
Yes.
How did you get through? In other words, what was your specific take? What through line did you take for this Denmark depressive
thing? Mine was make sure I knew all the words, and if I could do that, then I feel like I did a good Hamlet. No, it was interesting because Mark and I immediately kind of hit it off in the sense that we were less interested. You think of Hamlet. I happen to think that every Hamlet is both right on the money and completely off. Every Hamlet out there does, I would argue, at least one thing that no other Hamlet has ever done, and does it better than any other Hamlet has ever done it. Meaning that the play itself allows for so many different takes on it that you can't help but, it's like, shooting fish in a barrel. There's even in the most underproduced community theater production, if you see it, there will be a moment, I argue, that would be completely illuminating to the character in a way you've never seen before. So I didn't try to get too in my head about what's my take on it. What Mark and I really focused on was what is the, people think about Hamlet being inactive or his inability to act.
Right. Yeah.
I can't do, I can only think. Our take was really that he is very active. He does put in motion an entire set of.
He kills a guy, He
kills many people, he or is indirectly responsible for the death of many people, but the action isn't his problem. The idea, the problem is for him is that the choices he makes along the way are either a day late or a dollar short, and that the passion is never the problem with him. The intellectual capacity is never the problem with him. If anything, he's been cursed with that ability to see so many different facets to every argument that it then becomes a kind of, in a sense, dark comedy of paths not taken and things that should have been done instead of the thing he ends up doing. And the momentum, I think, of what Mark and I tried to give the play, as opposed to kind of settling into the dark, talking to a skull, just ruminating on the, yes, exactly, Mr. Potato Head would be even better. That we tried to keep it moving forward all the time, and really, to the point of, there were times in the first act and all the way up through the fake play he puts on, the mousetrap to catch Claudius in
Conscience of the King, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That I thought, Mark, are we going too fast? It was like, just drive. And for me, it was the most illuminating kind of approach to that play that I'd ever been around. I'd seen many productions of it, and you always kind of get bogged down a little bit, in my opinion, in the thinking and not the doing. And the doing is where character is revealed. The doing is where the conflicts are revealed. The doing is where the excitement comes for the audience, rather than just the thinking and psychological. And so it was a very active Hamlet, I'll say that. I was extremely physically tired after every performance.
We're talking with Sandy Meisner here, ladies. No, I'm kidding. We're here with MICHAEL GOTCH, who is in a beautiful part of Illinois right now, talking first about Hamlet, a play he did not write, but also about Tiny House, a play that he did write that is going to be opening the 90th season of the Westport Country Playhouse, and you can stream it at westportplayhouse.com. Is it com or it's org? I'm sorry, westportplayhouse.org. So if you explained what Tiny House is about, but if you wanted to, what is your takeaway? If people are going to watch, or they are going to watch the play, do you have one overriding theme, or is it more Chekhovian of sort of like, well, this is life as it is, and a relationship and marriage? What?
Well, the idea for the play gestated because of what I saw happening in the world in 2017, 2018. That's when I started thinking about it. And at that point, we were about, a year and a half into this grand experiment that we had with having elected a celebrity businessman as a president. And it was, whether you liked it or not, and I don't make any, I'm not going to come down on either side right here, but whether you liked it or not, it was a time of a lot of uncertainty and upheaval and change in good or bad ways, depending on where you fell in the ballot box. But that mixed then with this kind of movement in the get away from it all, HGTV. I couldn't watch the news at that point. I couldn't watch CNN and MSNBC, and all of Fox certainly could not watch. And so my dog, I leave the TV on for my dog when I go to work. And when I would come home, I'd just have it on. And I never wanted to come home to a bunch of bad headlines. So I would leave HGTV on. And I started to see these shows about getting off grid and tiny houses. And it felt like the perfect metaphor for a kind of separation for people these days, where there's the kind of dual pull of getting, we want togetherness, but we also want to be as far away from that polar opposite politically that we can get. And that kind of conflict of the polarization of the political world felt like we were all kind of clumped into a tiny space together, kind of crawling all over each other with our different ideologies and our different points of view. And I thought, the best metaphors are the simplest. And some people call them cliches, or some people call them too simple. They're not necessarily profound, but there's a universality to them. And for me, that image of what is ostensibly an Adam and Eve couple going out into the pristine wilderness, trying to get away from the polarization and the conflict of political discourse, building this kind of small paradise in the middle of a forest. But then it comes to, whatever you try to leave behind you ends up at your doorstep at some point. So not only things from their past, but also things from their present and potentially their future come to roost, come home to roost, and that they have to deal with it in a humorous way. But then there's also a darker, not a dark side. It's not Harold Pinter, but it definitely has something about where we may be headed, not as a cautionary tale, but just as something to keep in mind when we're thinking that everything is okay. It may not be underneath that veneer.
Well, see, you're talking to a Jewish person, so I know
Just
nothing.
live that every day, every day.
How are you? Were you raised religious? Are you religious? What religion are you, or are you not?
I was raised fairly agnostic, I suppose would be the word. We believe in a divine power, but not necessarily a specific one. And part of that was, I think, a little laziness on my parents' part, because they were half and half. So my dad is Orthodox. I'm half Serbian,
Wait,
and
Orthodox Greek?
Orthodox or Serbian Orthodox.
What the hell is Serbian Orthodox?
Serbian Orthodox. It's kind of, if people just think Greek or Russian Orthodox, they would know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So it's that side of,
Or as Bob Dylan would have said, you got to serve somebody.
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So my dad is half that, and then my dad is fully Serbian Orthodox, and my mom was raised a good Catholic girl in Pennsylvania. So that neither the twain shall meet. We never really, we went to church growing up, but it wasn't. It was kind of an on again, off again thing, and so that's kind of my base of faith is more agnostic. I do believe that there is some kind of, whether it's guiding force, I don't know about guiding, but there is something creative out there in the universe that has given us these gifts. And
well, speaking of gifts, let me ask you: do you have a favorite all-time play?
Oh, what do you mean by old time? Like
Oh, that's right, all ALL.
all time, all time.
Favorite play of all time.
Oh, all time plays. It's funny because they kind of run the gamut, and I'm great fun at parties because I always say that my two favorite playwrights are Harold Pinter and Edward Albee,
Oh,
and Shakespeare, of course.
yeah.
But for me, Edward Albee and Harold Pinter are two of the funniest writers in the world as well, or were. Unfortunately, they're both gone from us now. But the dark black comedy of both of those writers and their gifts with the language are just unparalleled. But I love things as we did down at the Rep. I was blessed enough to do about 70 productions as an actor so far, and one of my favorites. I know you said all time, but old time play. I love that 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s American, early 20th century American comedy too. The Front Page, and You Can't Take It With You. We just did 2 years ago, and there's something about them. I know they're not PC or whatever you want to call it for many people, because some of them have characters or things in it that would totally not comport with our political spectrum right now in terms of the way that characters of color are treated or absent completely. But there is something about the actual style. I'm just speaking about the style, that kind of rapid fire 40s. I love the 40s and 30s in film too, where the actual rhythm of the speaking and the kind of that rapid fire, Cary Grant for me is a big hero in terms of comedic acting on stage and on screen, and Arsenic and Old Lace and North by Northwest. So I have a soft spot for that early 20th century comedy on stage. Those plays, the Moss Hart, all that stuff.
Okay. Let me also ask you. I didn't realize you had 70 shows where you've been an actor. You don't look old enough to have done 70. Let alone you're also directing, right? But let me ask, you must have had amazing hell nights, like when something completely went wrong on stage or in the audience or both. And what are one or two of the most memorable nights when it's like everything went to pieces?
Oh, well, I have a story that isn't at the Rep, but I remember once having to go off Broadway at Theater Row. I was in a on a tour with a national tour with the acting company, the John Houseman company that had been started way back when with Kevin Kline and Patty Lupone. And they're still going. It's a great organization as well. They go around the country taking tour pieces. So we were doing Richard III, and we were also doing a premiere of a Jeffrey Hatcher play called Murder by Poe, and it was a collection of Edgar Allan Poe short stories wrapped into his biography, and it was a an examination of his life and
Oh, I know. The critics were raving about it.
yeah, it went away pretty quick.
Joke.
But anyway, we played it at Theater Row, and I was the understudy. I was playing a lead in Richard III, but I was just an understudy in
The Poe.
Murder by Poe. And as any responsible actor would do, I didn't really spend a lot of time with the script before, because the guy playing Poe was quite reliable, and I never thought I'd never have to go on. But you can imagine where this story ends up. I was in New York, and I got a call at like 9:30 in the morning saying, our lead, I won't name him, but he's not. We can't find him. We don't know where he is. We have a student matinee at
matinee. Yes, I thought maybe you had until 7 o'clock that night.
No, I didn't even have it till 7 o'clock, 11 a.m. And you have to be down in, I was living in Queens at the time, and I had to be down in Midtown and at the theater in half an hour. And I thought, oh my dear, this is going to be, because I had about a quarter of the show memorized, but I hadn't done it for 3 months, so I hadn't had a run through. Went there, and the first scene in the show is Poe coming out of a coffin, and I remember them loading me into the coffin on stage and thinking a better metaphor for what this is going to be was never thought of by this. Truth is certainly stranger than fiction. So they're closing this coffin lid on me in the dark, and I'm thinking, oh geez, help me, whatever you believe in, be there,
please. Yeah. Oh,
and somehow it went off. I won't say without a hitch. I did leave the stage twice to ostensibly have in a show in which Poe was never supposed to leave the stage. I did leave the stage twice. The other actors vamped, and I furiously, with the stage manager on the side, was looking through the script to make sure I knew. Somehow got through it, and no one was the wiser until this moment on your show. So you have a revelation that I'll never be hired again. No, that's not true. The acting company is wonderful, and they would never have known. And we did a talk back with the kids after, and they thought it was fun. And but I still in the evening before I go to bed, I say a thank you to my fellow actors who helped me through that, because they would, it was the classic, I believe you were going to say something about.
Yes. Weren't you gonna? Yes.
You're going to talk a little more about that being a gorilla in the room morgue. Ah, yes, I think I remember. To say a little more about what you think I was going to say.
I sense a doorbell about to ring.
Exactly.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. And it's also a lesson. It's like you, as now a founding person at the Rep, will tell other, your students and everybody else, if you're cast as an understudy,
you're lying.
Never, even if you were understudying for Merman or one of those people who never, ever, or Carol Channing, never, ever, you never, ever know.
Never know.
Except maybe in Perfect Crime. Perfect Crime, you can be Catherine Russell's understudy. Everything else, you don't have to worry about.
Yeah, that's been running for years. That is incredible.
It was the first show to reopen off Broadway when the pandemic, quote unquote, sort of ended. They brought that one back because they were getting 3 people in the audience to begin with. So they get 3 more. It's all right. But anywho, I hope you have, many, many, many people in the audience watching your play. It's called Tiny House, and it is going to be running from the end of June 29th through July 18th, online, courtesy of Westport Country Playhouse. Everybody, westportplayhouse.org, westportplayhouse.org. So I want to thank you very, very much to Michael Gotch. I want to wish you much success with that play. I know you're a writer, you don't like to if you're working in the middle, are you writing another play?
Well, I'm writing a couple things. I have some things in the works, but because of what happened with COVID, I moved a little bit more into writing for film, and we'll see what that turns out like, because you never know. I'm trying to hedge my bets on when we're getting back fully live in the theater. So I thought, at least I know they're producing this kind of thing. So
in the fall, you'll be teaching in person. You'll be.
Well, we'll see. You'll see. I think that there's, even at the University of Delaware, there's a possibility that you can opt out of live instruction if you have a some dispensation. But I agree. I think that most of it will be live. I think.
And you've been healthy. You got through COVID. You've been thank God.
I got, and I'm vaccinated. But I just did get over something that felt suspiciously like a COVID-ish thing. And now with this new variant from India, I'm just wondering where we're headed. But, I don't want to be the doomsayer.
That's the witchcraft again. I'm telling you. It was the witches in the closed crucible. They're coming back for you. I'm telling you. Michael Gotch,
thank you.
Much success. Thank you so much for being with us. And shalom to you.
Shalom to you. Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Michael Gotch, ladies and gentlemen, we got him. We got him right here in the Daverhood as we continue with the Dave's Gone By Facebook, your podcast, your pro.
Put his link to his website.
His link to his website is on the Dave's Gone By Facebook page, so check him out. Michael Gotch, and also, of course, Westport Country Playhouse.